Topic in Integrated Science for Grade 10. Let's dive in and make learning science fun and clear.
It covers over 70% of our planet's surface, and it makes up about 60% of our own bodies. We're talking about water. And it seems so simple, right? Just two hydrogen atoms and one oxygen. But have you ever really stopped to wonder why this one molecule is the absolute, non-negotiable key to all known life? Well, let's break it down.
Everything that makes you, you, every single thought you have, every move you make, every beat of your heart, it's all driven by chemical reactions. And all of those reactions, they need a place to happen. Water is that place. It's the stage, the literal liquid environment where the entire play of life unfolds. And I'm not just talking about a little bit of water either. If you zoom right into a single living cell, it's mostly just a tiny bag of the stuff. This water inside, we call it cytoplasm, isn't just taking up space. Oh no, it's an active participant. It gives the cell its structure and creates the perfect soupy environment for everything else to get to work. So what is it about water that makes it so perfect for life? What's its secret? Well, it all comes down to a few really unique chemical properties. You could almost call them its superpowers, and honestly, understanding them is the key to understanding life itself. So we're going to look at 4 of these superpowers. We'll see how water acts as a universal solvent, how it gives cells their shape, how it protects us from crazy temperature changes, and how it provides the space for all of life's chemical reactions to happen. First up, water is known as the universal solvent. You see, the water molecule is a little bit magnetic. It has a slightly positive end and a slightly negative end. This property, called polarity, makes it amazing at pulling other molecules apart or dissolving them. This allows it to carry vital nutrients into our cells and then carry all the toxic waste out. It's basically life's delivery and trash service, all rolled into one. Next up, water is a shapeshifter. As we said, it's the main ingredient in cytoplasm, that jelly-like stuff that fills up our cells. By filling the cell, it creates an internal pressure, kind of like air in a balloon, that helps the cell keep its shape and stops it from just collapsing in on itself. Water's third superpower is all about temperature control. Now think about this. How long does it take for a pot of water to boil versus how quickly a metal spoon gets hot in that same water? Yeah, water can absorb a ton of heat without really changing its own temperature very much. For living things, this is like having a built-in air conditioner. It protects our delicate internal chemistry from sudden and potentially dangerous temperature swings. So let's just pause here for a second and think about that. How does this amazing ability to soak up heat help you, or a plant, or any living thing, maintain a nice, stable internal state? That concept we call homeostasis. It's a really important connection. And this idea of stability brings us right to the very engine of life itself, metabolism. All these life-sustaining processes we've been talking about happen in water. Metabolism is simply the grand total of all the chemical reactions that keep an organism alive. And yep, you guessed it, water is the arena where it all goes down. So what exactly are these metabolic processes? Well, imagine a non-stop, bustling chemical factory inside every single one of your cells. These reactions never, ever stop. They are constantly breaking down the food you ate for energy and then using that energy to build new parts for the cell and then cleaning up the mess afterwards. This continuous whirlwind of chemical activity, that is the essence of being alive. Now, metabolism is basically split into 2 different teams. On one side, you've got catabolic processes. Think of these as the demolition crew. They break down complex molecules like sugar to release a bunch of energy. Then, on the other side, you have anabolic processes. These guys are the construction crew. They use that energy to build up complex things like making new proteins from smaller building blocks. All right, time for a quick check-in. Based on what we just said, if your body is building proteins from these smaller units called amino acids, would that be a catabolic process or an anabolic one? Think about it. Are we breaking down or building up? Now, these metabolic reactions, both the breaking down and the building up, they have to happen incredibly fast. I mean, ridiculously fast to keep us alive. But on their own, they're way, way too slow. So how does life solve this problem? It uses these incredible little tools called enzymes. You can think of them as the master keys that unlock all of life's chemical reactions. So what is an enzyme? It's what we call a biological catalyst.
Basically, it's a special type of protein that can make a chemical reaction happen millions or even trillions of times faster than it would on its own. And here's the really cool part. The enzyme itself doesn't get used up in the process. It does its job, and then it's ready to go again, instantly.
So how on earth do they do this? Well, every chemical reaction needs a little push, a little bit of energy, just to get started. Kind of like pushing a boulder up a small hill before it can roll down the other side. That initial push is called the activation energy. What enzymes do so brilliantly is they lower the size of that hill, making it way easier and way faster for the reaction to get going.
And enzymes are incredibly specific. This is often explained by what's called the lock and key model. So if you look at this diagram, you can see that each enzyme has a uniquely shaped area called an active site. This site is shaped to fit one specific molecule, the substrate, perfectly. It's just like how your house key will only open your front door and not your car door. One enzyme is typically designed for just one specific job.
But there's a catch. These master keys are, well, they're pretty fussy. They are super sensitive and they demand very specific conditions to work properly. If things aren't just right, they basically just stop working. This graph here really shows you what I mean. It shows how an enzyme's activity changes with pH levels. You see that peak right in the middle? That's its sweet spot, the optimum pH, where it's working at 100%. But if you go too far in either direction, too acidic or too alkaline, the enzyme's actual shape starts to twist and warp. That messes up the active site, and boom, its ability to do its job just plummets. And it's the exact same story with temperature. Okay, so final check on this idea. What do you think would happen to the speed of a reaction if the temperature gets way, way too hot, far above that enzyme's happy place? Knowing what we just learned about how sensitive they are, what's going to happen? Okay, let's take a breath and put all of these pieces together now. We've talked about water, we've talked about metabolism, and we've talked about enzymes. The thing is, these aren't just three separate topics. They are all deeply connected in this incredible, perfectly balanced system. So here it is, the whole chain of life in a nutshell. Water provides the stage. Metabolism is the play, all the reactions happening on that stage. Enzymes are the actors that make the play happen quickly and efficiently. And then, in this beautiful circular way, water's ability to regulate temperature creates the stable conditions that those very enzymes need to perform. It's just this perfect self-sustaining loop. And that leaves us with one final big picture question to think about. We've seen just how critical a stable temperature is for our enzymes. So, if the very engine of all life depends on these incredibly sensitive little proteins, how do you think something like climate change and rising global temperatures might impact life? Not just on a big scale, but right down at the tiny molecular level. It's something to think about. If you enjoyed the lesson, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more amazing science videos with Chemi Armor Imam.